Ruby Street and Blake Avenue is a sort of desolate, low-lying area that's right by Kennedy Airport, right off of Conduit Boulevard. So to the average eye, it might not look like anything. In fact, it looks like almost this weird, untouched area of New York that hasn't been, gentrified or built over or whatever. And it's kind of low and swampy and all that. But in Mafia history, it actually has a pretty big significance. So in the early 1980s, in the Bonanno family, there was a lot of upheaval because the boss, Philip Rusty Rastelli, had been put in prison. And in fact, over his entire sort of mafia career, he had been jailed like a bunch of times. He was kind of a lame duck boss. And the family was sort of split into factions. Those that supported Philip Rusty, or like Rusty Rastelli, and those who didn't. And there was these guys, they were called the three captains. So there were sort of three captains or lieutenants in the family. Phil Lucky Giacone, Dominic Big Trin Trinchera, and Sonny Red Indelicato. They began to grouse about the fact that this boss was always in jail, and it kind of made the family weak, and there wasn't a strong hand at the negotiating table for these sort of interfamily rackets and whatever. And these three captains were like basically saying like we want to be the boss, or like we'll run the family. And the commission, the other mafia families and bosses, they didn't want that because the boss stays the boss for life. Once you're the boss, that's it. You either step down or you die. So then on the other side, there was a faction of people that were loyal to Philip Rastelli. And one of those guys was Joe Massino. And one of the reasons he was so loyal to him was because Rusty Rastelli had actually made Joe Massino into the mafia and was kind of like his sort of older brother in the mafia, or whatever you want to call it. So after several meetings where they tried to sort this out as to who was going to run the family, and could there be, these three captains, could they be appeased? It sort of got nowhere. And initially the commission, the other bosses and stuff, they didn't want any fighting or bloodshed or shooting, anything like that, because it brought around cops and, the press and everything. But finally, after butting heads a bunch of times, there was no way that they were going to be able to solve their differences. So Joe Massino went to the boss of the Gambino family, Paul Castellano, and he was sort of de facto the most powerful boss in New York. And he was like, hey, what am I going to do here? And Paul Castellano said, do what you need to do to defend yourself. Joe Massino set up another meeting at a catering hall in Brooklyn, and he invited the three captains. But of course, they had no interest in really solving the problem. They were just going to kill them. And he also, Joe Massino also brought in Zip hitmen, mobsters from Canada who were originally made in Italy. He brought them down to New York to assist in the killing. So anyway, as the three captains came in for what they thought was this administration meeting, they were cut down in a hail of gunfire. So then after that happened, they needed to clean everything up, right? So they wrapped up the bodies and all this stuff, and they took them out of the club. And the bodies were then passed on to John Gotti, who was a close friend of Joe Massino because they were neighbors. They lived together in Howard Beach, or near each other. And also Paul Castellano, the boss of the Gambino family, told John Gotti to help in the in dealing with this murder. So they took the bodies to this Ruby Street and Blake Avenue, which was near the airport and near John Gotti's house, and they buried the bodies in a vacant lot. This vacant lot that appears in this video. And it didn't really take long for the discovery to be made. Some kids were playing stickball in the vacant lot, and they saw a hand sticking out of the dirt that had a several $1,000 Cartier watch on it, and this was the body of Sonny Red. The cops and the FBI and everyone came, they dug up the body, but they didn't find the body of the two other captains. So anyway, sort of long story short, basically, even though the cops and FBI really knew that Joe Massino was behind and stuff like that, they had no real evidence to be able to pin it on him. So nothing really happened. Then later, Massino went to jail on an unrelated case, and when he was released after, I think, 6 years or something like that, he was the boss of the Bonanno family. And Up until Rusty Rastelli's death, he was extremely grateful for Messino for protecting the family for him while he was in jail. And then the lot did not reveal its other dark secrets until 2004, when Messino himself became a rat and told them where they could find the other 2 bodies, which the FBI then went and dug up. So what might look like a normal vacant lot to some actually held a very dark secret, and to this day I wonder if maybe there's some other things maybe buried in that vacant lot. So anyway, that's this episode of Mafia Locations.